The morning light filters through the blinds of the guest room in my parents' sprawling Bay Area home. But I barely notice it. My fingers trace the cool silver eagles pinned to the shoulders of my dress uniform, the weight of them grounding me after 6 long years of silence. Colonel Sophia Reynolds. The title still feels both foreign and fiercely earned every time I say it in my mind. I smooth the fabric one last time, adjusting the ribbons that represent operations no one in this house ever asked about. Yesterday's drive up the winding hills to this estate had been heavy with memory. The tires crunched on the perfectly raked gravel driveway lined with manicured olive trees, the American flag fluttering high above the modern glass and stone facade. 6 years since my last visit. 6 years of unanswered questions, of promotions celebrated alone, of deployments where the only voices wishing me safe were from my team. I parked behind Derek's sleek Tesla. Of course he was already there, probably timing his arrival to seem effortlessly successful. The velvet box in my pocket held nothing sentimental, just the physical proof of my rank I plan to reveal today. Mom opened the door with a practiced smile that never quite warmed her eyes. "Sophia, you're here." Her hug smelled of expensive perfume and quiet judgment.
Eat,
Mom. I stepped inside, the open-plan living area gleaming with minimalist luxury. Dad's voice boomed from the kitchen. "There she is. Derek was just telling us about the new contract bid." He clapped my brother on the back, nearly spilling his scotch. Derek, with his perfectly styled hair and tailored shirt, flashed that polished grin. "It's nothing major, Dad. Just leading the security architecture for Vanguard's $1.2 billion cyber defense project." Cousin Lauren swirled her wine, eyeing my casual travel clothes. "Sophia, darling, what is it you actually do again?" "Something tech-related in the Air Force." Before I could answer, Derek cut in smoothly. "Soft works in basic cyber stuff. Nothing like what we're pioneering at Vanguard. Private sector moves faster." I swallowed the correction and took a sip of water. Let them talk. Tomorrow would change everything. Dad raised his glass to the Reynolds legacy of excellence. His eyes skimmed past me to linger on Derek. The toast tasted like ash. Memories flooded back unbidden. The mahogany study where, at 22, I showed him my Air Force Academy acceptance. His face had twisted in anger. The military? A waste. Sophia. People without real options go there. Mom had cried real tears, as if I'd chosen death over the prestigious tech internship at Vanguard that Derek later took. Unanswered calls during my first deployment. Family holiday cards that devoted paragraphs to Derek's promotions and one line to "Sophia continues her service." Dinner conversation flowed around me. Dad sliced his steak precisely. "Big day tomorrow. The Pentagon review team arrives at 9. Derek, you've prepared?" Derek shuffled note cards, nerves showing beneath the confidence. Mom glanced at me. "If you're coming, wear something suitable. These military types judge appearances." "I have something appropriate," I said quietly, hiding my smile. Later, alone in the guest room, I hung the uniform on the closet door. My phone buzzed, text from Major Ellis. "Team positioned. 0900 confirmed." I placed a handwritten list of accomplishments beside old family photos where I always stood slightly apart. Promotions to captain, then lieutenant colonel, full colonel last month, medals for thwarting major state sponsor hacks, commendations from generals. No one here had ever asked. I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. 6 years of being dismissed ended tomorrow. My work would speak louder than words ever could. The next morning, I dressed with deliberate precision. Each button fastened, each ribbon aligned. The mirror showed Colonel Sophia Reynolds commanding a 250-person cyber unit, not the disappointing daughter they remembered. The eagles steadied me. Downstairs, Voices murmured in the kitchen. Should we wait for Sophia? Mom asked. Dad rustled his newspaper. Let her sleep. Nothing she can add to today's meeting anyway. Derek chuckled. She's probably up late gaming or whatever her cyber hobby involves. My grip tightened on the banister. 1 breath.
2.
I descended. Each step measured. The kitchen fell silent. For pairs of eyes widened at my uniform. Dad's coffee cup froze midair. Derek's fork clattered. Lauren choked on her mimosa. Mom spoke first, voice trembling. Sophia. What are you wearing? My uniform. I poured coffee into a travel mug. Movements calm and exact. Dad's face reddened. You're not seriously attending the meeting like that. I am required to. As the Pentagon's lead cybersecurity liaison. Derek paled. Representing the Pentagon? What? I checked my watch. We should leave soon. The car ride to Vanguard Defense Systems stretched in uncomfortable silence. Dad drove. Derek shuffling notes in the passenger seat, sweat already beading on his forehead. Mom and Lauren sat beside me in the back, their designer outfits and perfume creating an invisible wall. Victoria, no. Lauren leaned close. The dress-up is cute, but you might embarrass Derek in front of executives. I reviewed notes on my phone, ignoring her. Mom patted my knee awkwardly. The blue does suit you.
Dear.
It's Air Force blue, I replied evenly. The campus emerged, sleek glass buildings reflecting California sunshine amid manicured lawns. Dad parked in his reserved spot. Thomas Reynolds. Executive VP. We entered through revolving doors. Security guards straightened sharply upon seeing me. Good morning, Colonel Reynolds. He saluted crisply. Dad froze mid-step. The receptionist stood. Colonel Reynolds, your team arrived early. They're in conference room A. 2 officers approached. Colonel, vulnerability scans complete. Initial assessment ready. Lauren's mouth dropped open. Derek tugged his collar. Sophia, what's happening? Follow me, I said, leading to the executive elevator. We'll be late otherwise. The boardroom smelled of polished wood and ambition. CEO Margaret Ellis rose, extending her hand warmly. Colonel Reynolds, the Pentagon speaks highly of your unit. Honored to have you lead this review personally. Dad made a choked sound. You know my father, Thomas Reynolds. Margaret's eyebrows lifted. Your father? You never mentioned your daughter was our lead liaison. Lead liaison? Derek repeated, voice cracking. Margaret continued smoothly. Colonel Reynolds' team will make the final recommendation on the $1.2 billion contract. Her cyber unit is renowned. Lauren tried linking arms. We've always been so proud of Sophia's leadership. I stepped away. Shall we begin? I took the head seat. Portfolio aligned perfectly. Mr. Derek Reynolds will present security protocols today. Derek stumbled to the podium, dropping cards. His eyes darted to my medals. He fumbled the intro, realizing who his audience truly was. As he glossed over encryption details on slide 16, I interrupted calmly. Your quantum-resistant protocol has a critical flaw in key generation via side-channel timing analysis. Derek's mouth worked silently. That's not possible. We've tested extensively. I opened my laptop, displaying detailed assessments. Your threat modeling is outdated. This vector could compromise the entire network. Pentagon observers nodded, noting furiously. The room hushed. Margaret turned to me. Your recommendations? Colonel, I've prepared a full framework. With adjustments, it can meet and exceed DoD standards. Derek stared at his useless slides, then at me, really seeing me for the first time in years. Not little sister Sophia playing soldier. but Colonel Reynolds, whose word could make or break his project. Dad's pen rolled off the table unnoticed. Half an hour later, the door sealed us privately. My family sat unified on one side, faces pale. Why this secrecy? Dad demanded, voice tight like old curfew lectures. I stood at parade rest. I am who I've always been. Derek slammed his folder down. You ambushed us professionally. Standard Pentagon review. I've done 17 this quarter. Lauren slid closer. Perfume cloying. I've always supported you. Sophia. A short laugh escaped. Last time we spoke, you called military service a waste for someone with my connections. Mom dabbed her eyes. I don't understand the secrets. The question hit hard. I'd rehearsed this in barracks across continents. Promoted captain 6 years ago. Lieutenant colonel last spring. Full colonel last month. 3 medals here. None of you asked. I command 250 personnel. Stopped attacks that could have cost thousands of lives. The president pinned this commendation. I tapped the ribbon. Silence stretched.
Outside.
Normal office sounds continued. Inside. Time suspended. You could have told us, Derek said finally. Like during Christmas in the field hospital after Iraq. Shrapnel in my shoulder while you texted about your new car. Derek looked away. Or your engagement party I missed stopping foreign hackers from missile systems. Dad straightened his tie. You're being dramatic. Am I? Your words to Senator Klein at the club. My daughter plays soldier while my son builds what matters. His aide served under me. It reached my command fast. Dad paled. I showed photos of missed family Maui trip. Reservations couldn't wait until my deployment ended. You said. My phone buzzed. Major Ellis checking in. Grateful distraction. That's your team? Mom asked. My second in command. They threw my promotion party. Helped through recovery. We would have helped, Mom whispered. Would you? The general's follow-up text arrived. Dad noticed. Someone important. Someone who values my expertise. The contrast hit. General seeking my counsel versus family disappointment. I stood, adjusting my uniform. Contract needs modifications. Outdated encryption. 3 firewall vulnerabilities. Full report Friday. I gathered notes deliberately. That's it. Derek's voice cracked. You dropped this and switched to business? Separating personal from duty. Lesson from early career. Lauren reached for me. Colonel Reynolds, I corrected gently. Dad stood. Discuss as family. I've never sought approval. Only respect. I walked out. Posture academy perfect. Integrity mattered most when costly. Major Ellis waited outside. All good.
Colonel?
I breathed deeply. Mission accomplished. Back to work. 3 weeks later, I returned to Vanguard, not as family, but professional. My ID badge hung openly. Receptionist greeted me by rank. Word spread fast. In the conference room, Derek stood at the whiteboard, sleeves rolled, looking less polished. His team stood respectfully as I entered. We spent 40 minutes reviewing protocols. When I suggested encryption tweaks, his team deferred to me. Derek watched with quiet wonder.
No resentment.
Afterward, he walked me to the elevator. You knew my project better than I thought. I've tracked similar systems 3 years. Lauren's been trying to leverage your name for introductions. I heard. Admiral warned me. Derek paused. We all thought you were wasting time. I was wrong. The admission lingered as CEO Margaret approached for lunch, without Dad. By design. That evening at my parents' house packing belongings, Mom found a military journal featuring my profile. Judith kept a scrapbook of your features for years. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have changed anything? She flinched. In Dad's study, he slid a framed commendation clipping across the desk. This was on the fridge. We never had language for this, I said softly. Bradley's, Derek's, email arrived requesting advice. Lauren's dinner invite I deleted. Boundaries mattered. I chose a hotel that night for space. Next morning, Dad's assistant called about a Northrop meeting. They wanted his distinguished daughter. Sunrise over the hills felt different, spotlight replacing shadow. I accepted. The meeting succeeded. I returned to my San Francisco base. But shifts had begun. 6 months later, my downtown loft overlooked the bay, golden light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. I adjusted framed photos. My unit after a major operation. Commendations with Major Ellis. Chess sets from overseas postings. Real family built through respect. Not blood alone. The doorbell rang precisely at 11 a.m. I opened to Dad. Hand half raised awkwardly. He pulled me into a tentative hug. Aftershave unchanged from childhood. Mom followed with cookies I once loved. Eyes red. Derek entered last. Casual jeans replacing corporate armor. No Lauren. Some bridges stayed broken. We settled in the living room. Silence stretched until Dad spoke. Beautiful view. Not why you're here. He met my eyes. Mask on. I was wrong. Sophia. For years. Dismissed your path because it wasn't mine. Measured everything by my ruler. Mom's hands shook. I should have celebrated your first solo flight instead of crying distance. Failed you as mother. Derek faced the water. You chose incomprehensible success while I fought for Dad's attention. Intimidating. Made me feel small. I didn't rush forgiveness. Words couldn't erase 6 years instantly. But honesty was new. I shared my album, unit celebrations, General Harlan, whom Dad quoted unknowingly. Firewall innovations earning presidential nod. 36-hour grid defense crisis. Derek asked genuine questions about encryption. Mom inquired about food. Friends overseas. Dad admitted narrow-mindedness, pushing his values onto Derek, rejecting them in me. Derek confessed exhaustion, proving their path right. I admitted controlling silence to avoid rejection, hurt less. No Hollywood resolution. First real talk in over a decade, fragile. Imperfect. Genuine. Tides shift gradually, perhaps families too. 8 months after the Pentagon review, the gravel no longer felt hostile as I pulled into my parents' driveway. Dad pruned roses, setting clippers aside for a genuine smile and brief hug smelling of earth. Perfect timing. Need your thoughts on something. In the study where old dreams were once dismissed, he pushed a joint military corporate initiative contract forward. Board wants me to lead, but military protocols. He shrugged, admitting limits unthinkable before. Could use your insight. Derek appeared. Laptop ready. Sleeves up. Got the draft protocol if you'll review. Team's solid, but field implementation is your expertise. We worked side by side an hour, corporate precision meeting battlefield practicality. Collaboration, not competition. Dad watched from the doorway with quiet wonder. Mom called for lunch. In the dining room, my official Air Force portrait hung proudly beside Derek's headshot. Had it framed last month, Mom said, touching my arm. Silver brings out the blue. Tell me about your new Seattle, San Francisco unit. She listened fully as I explained the training program. No glazing over. After lunch, Dad showed photos from a recent ceremony. General Phillips praised my innovations saving unknown lives. Pride showed in his eyes. Derek mentioned recommending me for civilian consultation. No nepotism. Board requested me post-Pentagon. At the window watching autumn leaves. Mom joined. Terrified every deployment. Easier pretending, less danger. Sorry, I wasn't braver sooner. Evening conversation flowed, without old power plays. Edges softened. Mom fussed less dramatically. Dad slipped less into jargon. Back in my office the next week, I rearranged photos, family now beside military, whole instead of separate. I never sought vindication or adoration, just respect for integrity-driven choices. Eagles caught window light. Service with honor eventually speaks. Family takes longest to hear. Time has a way of revealing what pride once hid. Looking back now from my loft overlooking the bay, the journey feels both inevitable and hard-won. The family dinners now include genuine questions about my operations, not dismissals. Derek consults me regularly on projects, crediting my input publicly. Dad quotes my frameworks in board meetings. Mom sends care packages before deployments, text checking in during long nights. Yet scars linger. Lauren's attempts at reconnection remain unanswered. Some trust, once eroded, rebuilds slowly if at all. The moral question hangs: does blood alone bind us? Or must respect be earned through understanding the full weight of another's sacrifices? I never needed their validation to succeed, but their shift toward it has healed something deep. The colonel in me remains vigilant, but the daughter has found tentative peace. In quiet moments, I wonder how many families carry unseen ranks, dismissed until the uniform forces truth into light. What hidden heroes walk among us, waiting for the ones who should love them most to finally see clearly? The American flag outside my window no longer mocks but reminds: service, whether military or familial, demands integrity that outlasts misunderstanding. Sometimes the longest battles are the ones fought closest to home. And sometimes, victory comes not in explosions, but in the slow, steady shift of hearts long closed.